Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me this evening is James Fox. How are you, James?
I am great, sir. Let's see if we can still figure out how to do this.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. Been about 2
Really?
weeks since we hopped on. Um, we were supposed to do an episode with Peter
Jeez.
Flaherty, and he had something else come up. Something I'm sure having to do with wearing a cape or something.
Yeah.
Um, out running around somewhere. So a lot's happened since we've talked last. The trade deadline happened. There's been a bunch of promotions. Tonight, Kai Bush is starting for the White Sox, so that's a interesting little development that I wasn't seeing coming. And there have been, as Clutch says here, there have been 0 wins since we last streamed here. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
Going for number 21 tonight in a row. We'll see if that happens or not.
Do you have a favorite of like the crazy stats through this whole thing? So I saw last night they have 27 victories and they've lost 28 series. Yeah.
Yikes! It's ugly, man. And I said historically bad, and I didn't even see this part of the thing coming. You know, I how is this even possible? But it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
No, they traded Cease and you said flat out, you're like, they're gonna win 50 games.
Yeah, but at this point, I don't even know if they're going to get that high. You know?
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, it'll take a lot of like weird September stuff. And September is weird, right? I mean, I even though it's like a rare thing for them, I do think they're gonna launch Pedro Grifol and do something else for 6 weeks. Maybe you get like the new manager bump and some of the a couple more kids come up and what I don't know. But I mean, the problem is the bullpen is so bad that you can't beat anybody. Like it's just impossible. And to be fair, like I said this on Twitter and you and I didn't talk about it. I talked about it with some other people since. I don't personally like care what their record is. I understand it's a story. Like it's definitely a story. People are going to cover it. Like if they're the worst team ever, like it's absolutely a story. But like to me, like they're the worst team in the league regardless. Like I don't really care how many games they win, right? So whether it's like 39 wins or 51 wins, like they're still awful. Like I care more about like how do they climb out and like have another good team at some point, right? So and they're screwed. Like they're picking 10th regardless. Like it's just like I don't really care what their record is. So for me, like the hand wringing every night is a bit much and I know people do this like for big league content and you and I don't. So like I get it, right? Like people are talking about it, but it's just not something I care about all that much.
Yeah, no, I don't really care what. I mean, at this point, I do have a rooting interest in it getting as bad as it possibly can. But as is mentioned in the chat here by James, he says what will make this team even worse is that they won't even get a chance to get the number 1 pick in 2025, which this is like the worst case scenario that you could possibly think of when looking at the anti-tank rules,
Yeah.
in the fact that these guys are not trying to tank this badly. I mean, they're trying to to do roster churn and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
in no shape or form are they trying to be the worst team in history.
No, and I think they knew they'd be like bottom 3, right? And they probably knew they were the worst team in the league, right? But them, Colorado, whatever. But no, they weren't trying to win 40 games. Like Chris Getz like screwed this up. Now, they didn't have much money to spend, right? So I mean like his whole like defensive plan didn't work and like it doesn't work if you can't hit. They can't hit. They can't score. They don't score runs. If you don't score runs, you can't win. So like it doesn't even matter how much pitching they have. Like there's just I don't know, man. Like it and like the draft pick thing, honestly, like their attitude just has to be like get the best player they possibly can at 10 and find a way to get extra picks, right? Like they have to do somehow what Washington was able to do where they land like another competitive balance pick and then you can either get 3 good players or you spend extra for a guy at 10 that fall, whatever, you know what I mean? But they're going to have to find draft assets and like draft a good player at 10 and draft first in every other round after that. I mean, there's just that's all they can do at this point. And I do think they'll be in contention for the number 1 pick in the 26 draft because like there's no way this is much better next year. Like it's
No.
like this is a 95 plus loss team next year for sure too.
Yeah. So Trey brings up something here that we were talking about off air here. He says, since this is FutureSox, why aren't they calling up relievers from AAA instead of Leon? We literally just had this conversation. That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it. Like, I don't need to see Dominic Leone. Whether that's Yossi Marcuzine or Addison Coffey, and I know that requires you maybe putting guys on the 40-man prematurely before you want to. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I think we're more likely to see, and this isn't sourced. I know I source stuff occasionally, but like me and Ian talked about this off air. Eater, Iriarte, some of the starters that are already on the 40, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw in the big league bullpen, like after hearing Bannister's philosophy on it. Like he kind of thinks like that's a good way to break these guys in. So maybe we see some of those guys in September. But there are some minor league relievers that could be a part of your future that there's no reason to not see. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys in the bullpen right now. Like Justin Anderson's still there, and Chad Kuhl's a great story. I don't need to see him ever again. Like I don't need to see Tuki Toussaint ever again. Like it is what it is. You got plenty of kids. Like bring them up and let's see what like we got here.
Yeah, and they also made an interesting pickup from the Dodgers as well.
Yes,
Gus Varland.
Gus Varland, yes.
And so this is something that I've talked with you off air about that I really haven't aired grievances on stream about. But one thing that they tend to do in Charlotte is they bring a reliever in for 1 inning, and he has a great inning, and then they bring him out for a second up and down, and it seems like it always backfires. And that's exactly what happened to him the other day. He came out and struck out a couple of guys in an inning and was perfect. And then they brought him out for another, and then run scores.
Well, and that guy's had some success before, right? And here's the thing too, like they're like the White Sox are number 1 on the wire, and at this point in the season, like they get to, it's not like AL NL because the trade deadline's over. So anybody that gets DFA'd, like if they want him, he's theirs. Like I was already fearing. I think Miami DFA'd Nick Gordon earlier. I was like, oh god, bad middle infielder, former prospect.
Chris Biggio just got released as well.
Kevin Biggio.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them grab him just to see if they could, get him to just pop for
Well, and honestly, like we've talked about the roster churn, and like I don't hate it, but like that's fine. So yeah, I don't know. So there's lots of stuff we can get into. I know we're kind of pretty far from the draft now. I wrote like 35,000 words on the draft because it was all Mike Shirley quotes. The whole class is signed. I think we're gonna have guys starting tomorrow. It sounds like at affiliates, at least some of them. Casey Saki gets the big promotion to Winston. Some other guys going to Canny. We don't have any other official roster moves, but we can get into that. We can get into trade deadline. Whatever you want to do, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've like we haven't talked about the trade deadline at all, so I just kind of wanted to get. Let's go ahead and hop into the trade that is getting so many bad reviews from all sorts of outside eyes, and I have some thoughts on it. Want to hear what your thoughts are on the Fedde Kopech fam deal, and what we got in return. If you think that it's enough, if you thought they should have gotten more, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like what I've kind of said is like I don't think it's the disaster that others think it is because I like and understand the 3 players that they acquired, but it's definitely, to me, at least 1 player short. I don't understand the Kopech part. Like, I don't. And maybe that's to get the stuff that you need from the Dodgers. But I just feel like the front office messed up somewhere. And subtract Pham. Like I don't think he had any value. Like that part's fine, right? And I don't really even care that the Cardinals gave up nothing. Sometimes that's how three team trades work. Like the Dodgers really value Edman. But I mean, to me, like those three players could have been a Fetty return. And then you're like throwing Kopech in too to get those three players. Like I feel like if it's one other guy that's like similar to Albertus, we're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. This makes a lot of sense. I just feel like it was short a guy. Now I will say I understand taking the chance on Miguel Vargas because like as the deadline started coming, and like I know like I did a show with Elijah and we kind of talked about this. There weren't any top 100 prospects traded.
Yeah.
Teams are not trading prospects. So the White Sox have backed themselves into a corner. We've talked about it, right? Where they're actively looking for position player returns because that's a weak part of their system, and they have no place for starting pitchers to pitch. Like they just don't, you know. So, if you want impact position players, and I think that's the key. There are a bunch of position players traded.
Yeah.
I don't love many of them. We can talk about some of them. If you want impact, it's got to be a post-hype prospect like a Miguel Vargas or a 19-year-old. And the White Sox did that. Like, I think we could argue that Miguel Vargas was the best young player acquired at the deadline. Maybe you like Norby better or
Well,
whatever.
Keith Law seemed to like him a whole bunch before last season.
Keith Law was the only one that didn't like eviscerate the trade because so the thing with Vargas is like he ran 400 on base percentages throughout the minors and he has some power. Now, defense is an issue. They're going to have to find him a spot to play, but I don't mind that. Like I think we saw trade after trade after trade and it was just like, oh, why couldn't the Sox do that for Fetty? And it's like, I mean, Connor Norby's a 35 defender too. He's going to hit. I'm very confident he's going to hit. Like he's going to be solid. But like your second piece is 26-year-old Josh Stowers who strikes out a ton. Like that doesn't do anything for you. I think the second piece that the White Sox acquired is really important. I think Gerald Perez could be pretty good. I know you saw him in person. I think it's an offensive-minded second baseman potentially. So yeah, look, they really like Vargas, which is my only explanation for the deal. I think it's a player short, but I don't think it's the catastrophe that it's been billed as. One other thing that I thought was hilarious, of course, like me and my wife like took my kids to the zoo that day, and like as the trade's breaking, we're walking in, right? And I told her, I'm like, look, I got to look and see what this is, and like whatever, like, and I'm in multiple group chats, and I didn't share my thoughts on this trade for like 5 or 6 hours, and people were like, what does Japes think? And I'm like, I'm at the zoo, like I'm not like, but it was interesting because I like digested a bunch of like other thoughts like first. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I feel differently. I don't really know.
Yeah. So I was at when the trade deadline happened. I was actually standing next to Johan Dominguez in the bullpen in Charlotte, and Colas was right there, and I saw Eloy got traded, and I said, "Hey man, get ready to get on a plane," because I assumed with Eloy getting shipped out that they would put Oscar on a plane, but I guess not. I guess Pedro's hatred for Oscar Colas is clouding their vision here.
Did you ask him? Does he speak English at all? He doesn't, right?
Who, Colas?
Yeah.
Oh, he just kind of smiled.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I'm sure
just
he
ask
speaks
him
a little bit, but
ask him his thoughts on Pedro Grifol or no?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No, he didn't get close. He was sitting on the bullpen bench for a minute, but I didn't talk to him at all. But yeah, so the trades are sitting here popping up as we're going into the last like 20 minutes of the trade deadline, and I'm listening to a Grateful Dead cover band because it is Grateful Nights in Charlotte, so there's a Dead cover band playing. And these things start coming across, and I didn't even bother commenting until I got a better overview of what happened. So, obviously, so what do you think? There's a couple of questions in the chat that I will get to in a few here, but what is your take on the rumor that the White Sox actually wanted Tommy Edman? Like, what On what planet does that make any sense whatsoever?
So apparently, and I can clear this up because I was very confused, and I asked like some beat writers, and so there was like a St. Louis beat writer that like made this thing like a total shitstorm, basically, like on Twitter. It makes no sense. So essentially, like the White Sox and Cardinals got nowhere in Fetty talks. Like it just wasn't happening. There were prospects they wanted. The Cardinals weren't going to trade them, whatever. So then the White Sox kind of like caught wind that the Dodgers wanted Edman. So I think, and look, I don't know that this makes sense, and I don't know that this is like a good thing, right? But the Sox were gonna do Edman for Fetty to flip Edman and get the guys they wanted from the Dodgers, which is the same thing, but like Fetty has more value than Tommy Edman. Like, what are we
Yeah,
doing here? You know? And I
yeah,
think that's where you could criticize Chris Getz a little bit for like maybe some tunnel vision. Like they really wanted Vargas, Perez, and Albertus, and they were going to do whatever to like land them, and then they made it a three-way trade to like make it not look so egregious looking. But no, they, from what I understand, they were never interested in like keeping Tommy Edman because that would be
that okay.
insane.
That makes
Yes,
more sense.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
because
crazy.
second I heard that, I was like, why would the White Sox want a bad player as a return for Eric
Uh,
Fetty? Made no sense
yeah,
to me whatsoever.
it doesn't.
So one of the questions that's here I want to answer now because
Mhm.
we were just talking about this off air as well. Has anyone
Yeah,
besides Dan Hayes confirmed that Minnesota offered their number 5 prospect?
yeah. So, and it's honestly like, so I like Luke Keeschel a lot. He had kind of like Dan Hayes is awesome. Like, and he had kind of mentioned that the White Sox are asking for the Twins' top 3 prospects. So Bruce Levine and Scott Merkin both said not true, basically. So whatever, right? And that's after the fact. So maybe it is true, and the Sox told them, "Hey, put this out there, whatever." But the one thing that I had heard is that Minnesota couldn't take on any money, and I don't know if that meant money for this year, money for next year, whatever. I mean, they didn't do anything for a reason. Like their TV deal situation is atrocious. So I think the White Sox wanted like one of their top prospects, like if they were going to trade them Fetty and pay for Fetty. But also, like, look, I like Luke Keeschel. I would have been happy about that. I think people would have been able to say, like, hey, a top 100 prospect was traded. But I don't know that Luke Keeschel's better than Miguel Vargas. Like, I just don't. He's just a
Yeah.
prospect still. And I don't think the Twins are giving you a better second piece than Gerald Perez. Now, the one thing that is ridiculous, and if it's true, and Bob Nightingale says it is, like, not wanting to trade in the division is absolutely absurd when you're terrible. That makes no sense. They traded DeYoung in the division. I have no reason to believe they wouldn't continue to do so. But Bob Nightingale, who's very plugged in, says like, "Oh, they don't want to trade in the division," which is really stupid. Like it doesn't matter. Like I understand like maybe you don't want to trade Luis Robert to the Tigers if they're gonna like keep him forever and he's gonna kill you, but like that's not what this is. It's Eric Fetty, and you're gonna
Yeah.
suck next year. So like
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Alec, we'll get back we'll get to your Winston-Salem guys here in a little bit. Yeah, so I saw this is one thing that kind of got and I didn't I so I chopped up the video and then posted it. But then like probably about like 6 8 hours later, it popped out that Alexander, and I had noticed this when I was chopping up the highlights, is that Albertus hadn't played for like 2 weeks. And so I figured that, oh, maybe he's got like like a sore back or, sore hamstring or something, and then you find out that he's got some sort of a reaction in his tibia and is going to be out for the rest of the year. That was the one thing about this deal that actually I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like we couldn't get a guy that at
Mhm.
least could play.
Yeah.
I mean, are they? And the thing is he's a bat to ball guy. He's not a power guy.
No.
So
Yeah.
we're not
And
looking at like a huge impact guy. So why did we have to specifically have to have this one? Is
right.
my
And if
question?
he's and if he's third base, like dude, it's got to really be bat to ball. I mean, he walks and he makes a ton of contact, like, and he destroyed rookie ball, and he was struggling in Kannapolis. But yeah, that one's, and I don't mind him as a piece. Like, I thought he would. That's like a fourth piece to me, you know. Like you get Albertus too, along with something else because you liked him like the last 2 years. Um, totally fine with that. But yeah, I mean, it's like a contact oriented profile at third base. Yeah, I don't know how much impact's there. I mean, he's going to be on their instructional league team, and you know, we'll see, I guess. But yeah, that was, of course they have to trade for an injured guy. It's just kind of what they
So
do.
ridiculous. Oh, let's see here.
Kind of.
Which
Those
one?
are both interesting from Trey and Jack. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like William Burgol is interesting. Like he signed for $2 million out of Venezuela 2 years ago. He was one of the big signings in the Philadelphia class. But I think guys like this are overrated, though. Personally, just like personal preference. Like it's good you got a prospect, but it's like an all defense speed guy that's like makes contact. Like what does he do for you? I just he's gonna probably play in the big leagues because he's a premium defender and he can run. But
Yeah,
okay,
that's
like they get guys like this get overranked. I feel like.
yeah. So to go back to the other trade, the player to be named later.
Yeah, it'll be cash.
Or yeah, cash. Yeah,
I hope it's a play.
probably.
I hope it's a player to be named later. That would be cool. You get an extra guy. How funny would it be? Did you see the original trade package or no?
No.
It had like Noah Miller or Owen
Oh
Miller.
yeah,
Somebody
that one I
help me
saw. Yeah.
out. Yeah, yeah. So it had, and he's just like a utility profile. How funny would it be if that's who it is and Bob knows already? Because Nightingale tweeted out that name as part of the package, and then it was like, oh, he's not part of the package. It's a player to be named. I'm like, but
Yeah.
Bob's like, right, but the player to be named later is the guy that I tweeted already because I
Yeah,
know
the player to be
everything about
named
this team. Yes,
is
Noah
named
Miller.
Noah
Thank you.
Miller.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That would be hilarious.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That was my whole thought on that trade. I felt like maybe they should have gotten another guy, especially with Kopech thrown in because I felt like Kopech just made like a mental breakthrough here in the fact that he said, "Hey, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am, and I should listen to somebody who knows better than I do." And he went out and tried it and had an immaculate inning and looked competent. So I kind of when he went out and what was it yesterday and threw an inning with no hits, no walks, and one strikeout, nothing else happening. I was like, that makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. And I kind of have a feeling that they're just gonna, he's gonna be what we were hoping he was gonna be there, and it's gonna make them look smart, even though he got fixed right before he got traded.
Yeah, and they have an extra year of control too, which is why I thought he had more value because you could just keep him. Like, look, I know he's frustrating. Like, they probably wanted him out of the building. Like, Michael Kopech's a huge pain in the ass. Like, Brian Bannister's been telling him like throw your cutter more like all freaking year, and then he gets to the Dodgers and they're like, hey, he threw more cutters. It's like, okay, like I mean, it's not like the Dodgers are better at pitching development, right? And they are like I'm not developmentally for the last decade, yes, but like right now, like they're not just like, hey, the White Sox are stupid, do this instead. Like the White Sox have been telling Kopech to do this, but instead he's like,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna throw it harder and get hit, and so I don't know. I just don't think it's enough. I don't really understand that. I'd love to know what they could have gotten for Kopech solo, and how important that piece was, like to the Dodgers' return, right? Like, could you get Vargas and Perez? My guess is no. My guess is like the way it was looked at was Vargas for Fetty and the other two guys for Kopech and nothing for
yeah,
And I'd
that's
argue
fair.
maybe that's probably not enough for Fetty because I said they should get a top 100 and an org top 10. Which is why I think it's a piece short.
Yeah, yeah. I like from the get go. I always felt like they should have gotten just a little bit more. And whether it came from the Cardinals, whether it came from the Dodgers, didn't care. Even if it's a flyer, I felt like there should have been something else included. Even though when we look at these rosters in the minor leagues, when we're talking about the White Sox minor leagues, where the hell are they going to put somebody?
I know.
There is nowhere to put anybody at this point, and it's not because it's stacked from top to bottom. I mean, they certainly couldn't take any pitchers. They've got no innings to give to anybody. at this point, because with this new draft class incoming, there's nowhere to put anybody. I mean, I guess you could just place somebody that you don't, see as a piece in the future, but you can self promote and other teams will get better.
Well, and the biggest issue is there's just a lack of players at Winston that are like ready or should go to Birmingham. So then you're going to be promoting some college guys like up, and I don't know, we didn't mention this yet. Like Casey Saki was their 4th rounder. Sox paid him $850K, which is 3rd round money. They actually paid him more than Nick McLean. Casey Saki is going right to Winston-Salem. I'm assuming tomorrow, Tuesday.
Would you?
Yeah, for Fetty? Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for all 3. Absolutely. What do we got to lose?
Yeah, I would have done that for sure.
For those of you listening to the podcast, it was asked if we would have taken Josue DePaula straight up, and I say yes.
Yeah.
As just James.
Yeah, so I had heard some weird stuff like about the Dodgers like not wanting to pony up really even for Crochet. Like they have guys at the top off limits. Like, because I don't think they wanted to trade Dalton Rushing. And like he has to be in him or DePaula has to be in
one of the two, yeah.
And like if you and Rushing's been on a tear kind of, right? And I think they like moved him to left field, and like if you're the White Sox, like that fits like what they've been looking for, like that plate patience, that's like, no, I would have told them to pound sand too. Like, no, like your top guys are coming for Crochet, or like he's not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Weatherholt, he's not really impacting the baseball, but he's hitting Weatherholt.
Yeah, no, if you wanna cry, you can look at Jack Caglione.
Yeah, he just got promoted, so he's going to high A as well.
Yep.
You just wait, guys, until Hagen Smith is starting playoff games for the Birmingham Barons.
Straight to Double-A, huh?
I don't know. I'm just kidding, but like I don't know. Like it's the White Sox. Who knows?
Yeah. So let's move on to some of these couple of these other trades, which are smaller returns and whatever. But so I don't know how to pronounce it because I didn't pay attention when I was watching the Knights when Mr. Trey Magoo, the return for Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, Mago. I think it's like Mago, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember how it's pronounced. I've heard him when he was on the Tides. I've heard his name pronounced, but I just do not remember, and it's a lot more fun to say Magoo.
Yeah, the Mr. Magoo.
Yes.
I can't believe they got anything or saved any money. Now, there's conflicting info out there on how much the White Sox got money wise. Like it seems like so his $3 million buyout, like with traded, like they have to pay 1.5 of that regardless. So they're not saving the whole buyout. So I think the White Sox might have only saved $2 million total if they're also sending $4 million to the Orioles. But like that's fine. Like you save a couple $1 million and you get a lefty reliever that might pitch in the big leagues this year. Like it's fine for Eloy, who was totally useless and going to be DFA and going to be, not have his option picked up. So yeah, I was stunned by that trade. And of course, Eloy is like 5 for 9 or something right now with
5 for 8, with
Baltimore. But
yeah, I think they're all singles and all ground balls. So nothing's
like
really
hits the
changed,
ball on the ground.
Yeah.
I was surprised that Baltimore I was like, what? Like they're keeping all these stud prospects in Norfolk, and you're gonna play Eloy Jimenez? Like it doesn't make any sense.
So far they've only had him as a platoon DH against left-handers, and it's worked out well. And I mean that makes sense, because I forget the other outfielder that they had.
Well, they traded Austin Hayes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. They did that, and then they had the other outfielder that they had doing the other side of the platoon. I can't.
Oh, gotcha. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because Santander plays every day, and then they do have. Yeah, they have O'Hearn that faces
O'Hearn,
righty. Right? That faces righties. Yeah.
O'Hearn, yeah.
And then they have a ton of prospects, and they won't trade any of them.
Yeah, it's that's so maddening. And like I saw your tweet that said if I was an Orioles fan.
Oh my god! Did you see you see the replies?
No.
Oh, Orioles fans are pissed at me. They're like, and the thing that was the best about it is they're like, your team sucks. Like, Chris Getz sucks. I'm like, guys, here's the thing. nobody hates the White Sox more than White Sox fans. Like, this isn't the dig that you think it is. Like, you can
Yeah,
come
you're
at
not
me with
telling
like,
us anything.
yeah, like you can come at me with White Sox suck stuff. Like, that's not what this is. This is legitimately like, my team can win the World Series, and instead they got Zach Eflin and Trevor Rogers. Like,
Yeah.
that's what this is for me. That's all I meant by it. It was just, I don't understand the way they do business.
I did not understand. I mean they ended up pulling up what Norby the next day or whatever, or
Well, they traded him to Miami.
Mayo.
Yeah, Mayo's up.
They pulled Mayo up like the next day.
Yeah.
So I mean I understand why they kept him and they didn't want to trade him, and I understand them potentially wanting to have like 6 years of control on the entire lineup and them all being superstars because they hit on a couple and had absolute slam dunk picks with their draft picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like
Enjoy starting Trevor Rogers in a playoff game.
exactly.
Have
Yeah.
fun with that.
Yeah. Gonna get, I mean, Aaron Judge going up against Trevor Rogers.
Yeah.
Watch
So
that ball
one
sail
of
to the
the
moon 3 times.
there was like a prominent Orioles like blogger type account, whatever, and he kept coming at me like, because I don't know. I think I said something where he thought I said that like, oh, they should have traded for a number one starter, like one of these top guys, right? And he's like, oh, I must have missed where these guys got traded, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, you know why they didn't get traded? Because guys like Mike Elias aren't willing to trade any of their top prospects. It's not that they weren't available. They could have
Yeah.
got Tariq Skubal. They didn't
They
want to
could
trade
have
it. They didn't want
if
to trade
they
anybody.
would give some value, some
Yeah.
value. Like they don't want to give any value. And
No,
it's
like
like,
of course you want to trade Connor Norby.
yeah, of course. Like if you want to do like Norby, just add Basayo in there
Yeah.
and a couple of other guys, and I'm sure they'd send like Tariq Skubal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't like
And
he
Zach
won't do
Eflin's
that.
fine, but
Yeah, he's okay. I've got him on my fantasy team. He's fine, but like he's the issue with Eflin is that he doesn't miss a lot of bats. He doesn't allow a lot of runs, but he doesn't miss bats, which is one of the things that we always talk about here with the White Sox is that, some of these guys are good, but they just don't miss bats enough. And when it comes to playoff time, that's when it really blows up,
Yeah.
So, your thoughts on, and we talked about this one just briefly, but the Tanner Banks to the Phillies for William Bergola.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Tanner Banks is 32. He's got years of control left. I think guys like Bergola are like a little bit overrated, but I think it's still a good deal. I mean, that's a guy that's you were tweeting out highlights of William Bergola already making sensational plays. I just
Yep.
don't know how much he's going to impact the baseball, but he does walk quite a bit. And that's one thing like that I'm actually a little bit intrigued by the profiles that Getz or this like pro scouting staff has like looked to acquire, because they've done it in the draft now and at the deadline. So as disappointed as some are, and like I get it, right? Like Vargas like controls the zone. Perez controls the zone. Albertus controls the zone. These are all guys with high walk rates that like have an idea at the plate. The same thing with their draft. Like I don't think we can count Caleb Bonnemer because that's one of these high upside high school guys. But McLean, Saki, Antonacci, like all these guys, it's the same thing. They're all just like guys that take a bunch of pitches, work counts. So if this is like the new thing, that's fine, because that's something, as you know, like you watch more minor league baseball than anybody. That was not a focus before. And
It was
they
not.
need power hitters like that, but I think you can pay for power at the end,
Well,
and I know
yep.
that's funny because your owner's Jerry Reinsdorf, but it's just get a bunch of guys that work counts and knock pitchers out of games. And like that's what, it's just something that I'm not used to because they've never done this before.
Yeah. So, I mean, the times that it was done, I feel like the talent eval was done by somebody like Kenny Williams or something along that line. Like, I don't feel like the scouts got the guys that they wanted when you come to a guy like Zach Collins. when you come to a guy like Nick Madrigal. Those guys were supposed to have, you know, plate discipline. They were supposed to be guys that took walks and whatever. And you did see that Collins did have elite walk numbers. Just the issue was is that he never, other than one season in Charlotte, did he like really hit well. And then he got brought up and he didn't hit at all in the majors because he had a nasty hitch in his swing. So
yeah, and I was one of the look, I was like a Collins supporter for a long time, just because I was of the mind that I don't care how this guy makes his outs. He's gonna walk, he's gonna hit homers. But he just didn't have enough of a hit tool to hit for enough power in games. So then you're just screwed. You're just done. You can be that guy. You just have to rake,
Yep.
And if you don't, you're nothing. And he's also doesn't have a defensive position, which is not great, right?
Yeah,
so
that was the issue really, is that if you're not good defensively, they can't hide all the flaws in his swing behind his defense, like they're doing with Corey Lee. He's not hitting particularly well, but at least he's halfway decent on defense, and they can have him catching Major League Baseball games. Yeah,
if you're Zach Collins, right, and you were going to hit 220 with a bunch of bombs, but you could catch that's fine. But the problem is if you're a first base DH, you just don't have enough power for that. So then you're nothing, which is a huge problem.
Yes. One of several White Sox draft picks of that era that had no position whatsoever. All right. So the last one, and then I want to get to Alex's questions here on the bullpen stuff down here. And that's Paul DeDong to the Royals for Gerald Rosado. Royals A ball. I'm almost positive he might be now. I saw him pitch against Kannapolis. And he's pretty nasty at that level. I don't know if that's going to carry or what, but any thoughts on that? I mean, anything for DeJong is good, right?
Yeah, I think that return's good. Fireballing reliever that's a little bit further away, but yeah, that's Paul DeJong. Most people thought Paul DeJong was going to be DFA'd by May 15th, and he, brought you back a relief prospect, So yeah, that one was fine. I didn't mind any of the rest of their trades. The first one was puzzling. The other ones made sense. And it seems like we have a lot of stuff before this, but it just seems like there's more coming because, Jeff Passan had a long article today kind of talking about MLB wanting to implement the trading of draft picks, which will be nuts, by the way. But
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great. But they can't do it until 2027 when the CBA expires. But
after the long work stoppage.
Yeah, right. But he was talking about just what the winter holds, and basically said the White Sox are trading Crochet and Robert. So you would like to see Luis Robert actually turn back into Luis Robert, so they could actually get something for him. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing made up trade packages here for months, it seems.
Yeah. All right. So let me get here to so Alex got a couple of comments in here. So I'm going to keep on scrolling up until I get to the first one. He said, why haven't Paulette, Kelly, and Collins been promoted? They've all been great bullpen arms. Also, they should promote Gladney and Kath. Are Mogollon and Heel going to Canny? Mogollon currently is in the Bridge League, which is what they're calling the tricky leagues now. He's the only guy from the ACL that's playing in this Bridge League currently. So my guess is if he goes to Canny, it's not going to be until the last 2 weeks of the season. That's my guess. You have any thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that he was one of the only ones that stayed back to do that. So even some of his other international compatriots aren't playing in the Bridge League currently. I wonder if some of those guys will get back in after, because now these draft picks are reporting, it seems like. Yeah, I mean, I thought Mogollon was playing well enough to go to Kannapolis.
Yeah, me too.
But they might just leave him at the complex because there's literally not a spot to play. I mean, Sam Antonacci is probably going to play second or third pretty much every day in Kannapolis.
Yeah. And you just got Gerald Perez as well. So
right, so he's there. McCants is going there. Lyle Miller Green's going there. Archer's going there. I don't know where McLean's going. We don't know that yet. But I mean, like all these hitters are going to the low minors. Mogollon's still young. I'm sure. I mean, he'll definitely be there next year for sure. So, yeah, that one's a little bit surprising. I thought he was one of the guys. I thought Christian Opper might make some starts in Kannapolis too, because that's the other thing. Like with the Aldrin Batista promotion,
It does
to
open up a
to
spot.
Winston, I don't think these college draftees are quite ready yet to take those starts. So even if it's not Smith, it could be Sinibaldi and Mason Moore, like those guys we talked about a little bit. Like they could just go right to Canny and make some starts. I don't think they're ramped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And then like Arxie Hernandez and Ryan Burrows are already there in Kannapolis. Like you're sending multiple outfielders there, and you have Wolko there, and a couple of
And
other.
and you've got
Essingen has been
Alvaro
good.
Aguero, who's been playing actually really, really well. And, you and I had talked about Drake Logan, and we were like, there's a bunch
Yeah,
of outfielders coming.
they're gonna
Where's
cut
this guy
him.
going to? They're going to have to cut him.
We cut him, and he's been great since.
We did, and he's been awesome. He's been driving in all their runs.
Yeah.
He hit a home run the night that I went to the Ballers game. Guy's just been driving in like almost all their runs. So, he mentioned Alec also mentions Rony Hernandez. I am also a Rony Hernandez fan. There is a question of his defense so far. I know that they do like Luis Pineda's arm a little better behind the plate. But I mean, Rony's young, and he'll continue to get his chances. He's put up some nice stats with the bat, and he's been DHing every once in a while as well. So he's just going to continue to get at bats. He'll get better.
Yeah. So Rony like hit 6 homers in the DSL, and then 3 in the complex league, and he only has 1 in Canny, but he has a 15% walk rate with a 14% K rate, 123 WRC plus. So you really like want him to be able to catch. But if he can, I mean, I think he's going to be like, on our top 30 for sure, just because he's like so young and putting up those kind of numbers. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I saw a stat somewhere that he's like one of like 3 guys that's got more walks and strikeouts that's played above the complex league. That's, under the age of 19. He's like one of the 3 people at all to do it this year.
Yeah.
So it's, he's got some good stuff on the way for sure.
Well, and I think Perez is like one of the best 19-year-olds in low A as well. Not for walk, but just like in general. Like his overall numbers were really good. He started to really turn it on for the Dodgers.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me scroll down to his. Where is the last one? Thoughts on Kath, Gladney, Collins, and Kelly and Paulette. So we've already seen Kelly as high as AA, and it's kind of one of those things where in AA he's struggled, and he's back in advanced. He's back with the dash now, and he's pitching pretty decently. I think just the issue is consistency. It's the stuff's there, but
I wonder if Jared Kelly goes to the fall league because they need to make a 40-man decision. He's not getting on the 40-man, but I'm just saying, like he's Rule 5 eligible. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean he's been solid in relief. Dahlquist has been solid in relief. Peyton Paulette is like a revelation in this role. I don't know if they're gonna leave him like that or if they're gonna try to have him start again. But I mean, like you could fast track Peyton Paulette in the bullpen, like if he's gonna pitch like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
So. Yeah, well, I mean, his stuff trends upwards when he's only throwing for like 2 innings. He's throwing like 98, 99 miles an hour, which is what we thought we were getting in the first place. And it just hasn't, been a thing up to this point, except for when he's pitching in relief. Kath, his glove has improved a lot. His bat has improved a little bit. His swing looks better. and his plate discipline's getting a little better. He's improved, but it's not one of those, not one of those things where it's like a revelation, if you will. You know, hasn't been amazing right off the bat this year.
Yeah.
But he definitely has shown some improvement.
Yeah, and it's just
Um,
not enough power to walk as little as he does if he's gonna play a corner. Like it's just,
yeah,
like we've talked about this with Gavin Sheets, like over and over and over again. Once again in the majors, Gavin Sheets, 7 homers, 82 WRC plus, no defensive value. That's how you get non-tendered. I mean, it's just like you got to mash on the corners or you're nothing.
yeah. I mean, it's like I feel like the power's there for Kath. It's just it's a bat to ball thing that
K rate's still over
you know
30%, I
yeah,
think. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
still working on that, and it's just one of those things where you know he's still young, but he hasn't gotten the oil poured on his head, the
yeah,
blessing
yeah.
to be the top rated prospect in the system. Um, and as far
So
as Gladney goes, he's been okay, but
all
he's one of
around,
those just hasn't taken a step forward. Although I will say, they've got him playing center field, which I didn't see that coming. I
and
saw
it's a
him
high
in
school
left field,
shortstop. Yeah,
and now they've got him playing shortstop. I mean, they had him playing third base and first base, and now they've got him playing center field. So like he's doing things. It's just he's a super streaky hitter, and right now he's on a heater, but he was on a very bad cold streak to start the year. So
yeah. So Alec asked about Yoiker Fajardo.
yes, Yoker.
So DSL guys can break your heart. But 57 Ks and 7 walks and 40 innings is pretty good, especially from like a guy that Ben Badler and others of his ilk were like, hey, this guy's a dude potentially, like 6'3", 195-pound righty. That would be nice, huh? They're using your stuff on Comcast. You can want me to get in Chuck's DMs for you and be like, hey, man.
I mean, it may have happened once or twice before. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's like, hey, where'd you get that from, buddy? So yeah, no, Yorker Fajardo is interesting, and I think like it's just gonna take forever to see him because he's gonna pitch in Arizona next year, unless he's like super dominant and they leap him to Canny. But that's definitely the bright spot of a otherwise pretty bad international class.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes, 57 strikeouts versus 7 walks in his first, 7 or 8 starts in the ACL, he's
Yeah.
going to Canny,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. We'll see. Um, yeah. So Jack says send Jacob Gonzalez back to Canny.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been a struggle for him.
he's been slumping as of late. Yeah. What's up, referee? How you doing? Yeah. So, Benjamin Bailey. That's a name I haven't
Wow,
heard in a minute.
it's a blast from the past.
Yeah, I watched earlier before this year started. I saw a video of him training in a gym down there, and he's
Mm-hmm.
just still just absolutely jacked and just doing pull-ups, and he's just
Yeah.
totally shredded, but can't hit a baseball,
No. Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, yeah, so me and John Rudels here in the chat, we went down to Tennessee and saw the Barons the other day. Unfortunately, we did not get there for the Jairo Iriarte start, where he
Mm-hmm.
had a no hitter going into the what was that, the 6th inning, I think,
Yeah.
something like that. And we didn't get there until that game was over, unfortunately. So we did see the Garrett Shanley start, and yeah, that was fun. Mr. Rudels got to get a picture with Elko and Mason Adams, and talk to Mason Adams for a few minutes. That was cool. And that the Smoky Stadium in Kodak, Tennessee, they're closing it down after this year and moving to Kodak, or not moving from Kodak to Knoxville. So that's the second. I think it's the second to last time that they were going to be there. Anywho, yeah. So we did that, and then We went to I saw Riku's debut in Winston-Salem on Tuesday, and then later on Tuesday we went and saw Elko in his debut in Charlotte, which was also awesome. Unfortunately, we did miss. Oh, Kai Bush just walked the bases loaded. That's not good.
Three walks or no?
I don't know. I haven't
Oh,
been. I don't think so. But he did just walk the
third
guy
time.
to load the bases. Yeah. But yeah, we went to Charlotte for the continuation of a game against the Tides, and then a game against the Tides, and of course, Jackson Holiday played in neither game, and then he got called up.
Yep.
So that was unfortunate. And then we went and saw the Ballers on Thursday, and that was it was 3 walks. Yeah, this is pretty much the same thing that he's done in Charlotte, where he gets all worked up and starts walking guys. But yeah, had a great time. It was awesome. Got to see Haral Perez in his first game, which was cool. I also posted a video of Haral Perez making a fantastic grab in Kannapolis yesterday, which was real good. So if you haven't seen that, go over to our X/Twitter page at FutureSox and go look for those highlights. It would be in a pitching video, actually, in the Ballers pitching video from yesterday. So we got this. Looks like Kai Bush is going to give up a sac fly here. Yes, he does. And so now there's 1-0 in the first. Game over.
Is that the first out?
That is the second out.
Oh, okay. Well, he might get out of it.
Yeah, no, he might, but the White Sox aren't going to score any runs.
No, I know.
21.
Oh, but they're in Oakland. They always play well there.
Yeah, the West Coast swoon always works out well. Yeah, blank name says Haral Perez better be good. I think he really is the best prospect they get back. I have to agree with you. Just like the potential for a impact bat, he is. Him and Vargas are probably like pretty close as to who's got the chances of being the best prospect there. We'll see.
Yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're working on top 30, trying to get that out. I think everybody kind of knows what the top is gonna look like at this point. Guys like Drew Thorpe, Jonathan Cannon have both graduated off the list, so that opens up 2 spots. But I mean, we got a couple of guys via trade. There's also multiple draft picks that'll move on that list. 6 of us are doing it. Then we make it a composite ranking. So, I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, like that's done. So, I think our list is going to be a little bit different than other publications.
Mine definitely will be.
Yeah, we know these guys a little bit more too, so I'm willing to take a couple chances on guys if I know like their makeup's good and stuff, like things along those lines. I'm always going to lean on ceiling because it's just what I do. I generally don't rank relievers often, I just, hike guys that have potential impact like up the list a little bit further generally. So it might look a little bit different than some people are expecting.
Yeah, that's I did mine and I was like, I was like, oh, should I change it? And I was like, I don't need to make it like everybody else's. I kind of, like the way I'm kind of looking at it is that I would like to push awareness a little bit more, possibly. And Kai Bush gets out of it, only down 1-0. I'd like to push awareness more so than worrying about like who's like 30
who's
out of
30,
30,
who's 8 and who's 10. Like it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah. I don't need to sit there and beat my head against the wall to try and figure that stuff out. Like, let's just throw a bunch of names at the wall, guys who I think are good. I'll put them in some sort of an order, but I mean, like I've got some guys way higher than other people do, and I'm totally fine with that. We'll see what ends up happening anyway. If I'm right, cool. If not, is what it is. All good.
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
the next time we do this, do the White Sox have an interim manager?
I hope so.
I'm going to say yes.
I hope so, but I hope it's after they've gotten the record. Like, I really want this record at this point.
I think
Like,
it's. Are they off Thursday before the Crosstown series?
I think that so the Cubs are the ones who can send them to that record, right? I thought.
Yeah, that game's but if they're off Thursday, that's the time for it. You come home from Oakland, see you later.
But that'll put them at 23. And they still need one more to tie the record?
Yeah.
It's 24, right?
So you want him to be the one that ties it?
I want Pedro to wear it. Yeah. Personally. Yeah. I am I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Like I want him. Yeah. I like Pedro enough for him to be able to hold on to that piece of history right there,
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Once again, Bob Nightingale and Ken Rosenthal have both said that like it's only a matter of time, like he's going to get fired at some point. So I don't really know why he needs to meet with Chris Getz and the owner last week. Like that doesn't really make any sense to me. Like he seems like dead man walking. Like it's not really something Jerry Reinsdorf does, but like he also doesn't make any money. So who cares? I mean, the thing that's going to annoy me is when they just promote the bench coach, because I want to get wacky. So
yeah, you said that to me off stream.
Well, and then you need it, but then you need a new bench coach. Just leave the bench coach in his role and have Grady Sizemore do it, or Drew Butera, or one of your minor league managers. Like, because the thing is, I think it matters. Like, if they know Skip Schumacher's coming, who cares? Like, let's get nuts.
Yeah.
Like what like.
Referee says that we should fire the senile dementia patient Jerry Reinsdorf. He is to blame 100%, not Getz or Pedro.
Well, obviously, now, yeah.
I mean, he is at the root of the problem. I wouldn't say that Pedro or Getz. I don't know anything about Getz. Me and you and I have talked. We don't know what Getz exactly was offered from anybody else, so we can't say what the return necessarily was. But I can say from the comments that have been made by other executives and stuff, it seems like maybe that trade was a little bit light. I don't know. But I do know that I don't like Pedro as a manager. I think he's pretty terrible.
Right. Like this can be not his fault, and he could also be terrible.
Yeah.
Did you hear Ozzy's comments on it?
Yeah.
So it's so bad. Like it's just like they hired this guy over me. How bad am I? That whole thing. Like it's just these guys, man. They got to do post game every night. It's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you're Ozzy, you gotta, they picked this guy over you, and you've got a World Series, and this is what this guy's come up with.
Yeah, I mean, what's his record is like something crazy, like 80 and 180 or something that I saw. Like he's 100 games under 500 as a manager.
Yeah, something like that.
What is he? What is Pedro Grifol next year? First base coach somewhere?
Oh, well, he'll be getting paid, right?
$1 million. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, he might not work at all, and it might not even be his choice. Like at this point, like I don't even know if a Frontier League team would hire him.
Right. Like it's really not good. Like I don't know what he brings to the table. So.
Yeah, I mean, after seeing the ball transfer from Wilson the other night, which was apparently thumbs getting locked.
Oh
together.
Yeah, sure. Sure it was.
Yeah, I was told it was much ado about nothing. I don't know if I buy into that. I think he was not happy about the intentional walk and also defensive miscues, which ended up costing him a bunch of runs again. Yeah. year off for Pedro than maybe a minor league job. Blank name, possibly. At this point, I mean,
I just
I
wouldn't want that
don't.
guy anywhere near my minor league players.
I don't want to have him in any developmental role whatsoever after seeing what he has done with this club. Absolutely not.
And don't you think it's pretty evident that Getz isn't allowed to fire him? That's true, right? Like, this is like not a Chris Getz decision. And I know like Daryl Van Schouwen tweeted something weird, like Chris Getz wasn't on the trip to Minnesota. Josh Barfield was, but like that's normal. Like Getz doesn't always go on the road. Somebody does,
Yeah.
but so like was that basically just saying like, okay, Getz isn't here, he's not getting fired? I didn't think he'd get fired on the road anyway. Like they're not going to pay to fly him there and then fire him. They're not. Jerry's not going to do that.
Yeah, probably not. But last thing before we kick this thing off here. So AJ Pierzynski as the manager of the White Sox, because I see referee bringing this up in the comments. You think that there's some smoke there?
Well, I mean, Bob Nightingale said it.
That was
like,
my thought.
Like, so, yeah, I mean, the White Sox are weird. That's like totally White Sox. All of a sudden, they just hire AJ Pierzynski. Like they hired Robin Ventura. He didn't even want the job. And they were like, hey, guess what? Robin's going to do it. Like, after they basically made him. Like, this is what, like, the qualifications for the job is like somebody that Jerry Reinsdorf has met before, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know, like I'm sure like Tony La Russa would have a big say in hiring Skip Schumacher. And look, Skip Schumacher seems like qualified, which is why like I feel like he should go somewhere else. But I mean, if it's AJ, it's like red meat for the fans. Fine. Like, you know, but I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not the worst hire they could make. Like, who's the Royals bench coach?
I don't even know.
No, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, AJ didn't. Yeah, but AJ never said no. AJ said that he'd love to manage, but that he hasn't talked about it with the Sox.
Yeah, I mean, like my issue here is that yes, he was a catcher, and yes, I do think the guy's a smart guy. But again, we're looking at a guy here who hasn't like. I mean, maybe he's managed a little league team, you know, but it's a completely different situation. You know, I don't know if I want a first time manager doing this again, and it seems to I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems like I would rather have somebody with some experience, possibly.
Right. Like there's a comment about Skip Schumacher being let go in Miami. I mean, he's being let go at the end of the year. That was like already determined. Now, did they cut him loose early? Maybe. You know, he gets a head start on things. Yeah. I guess that's possible. I mean, Bob Nightingale called him the favorite in his notes column this week. So,
yeah.
Like Bob Nightingale's notes column every week is like just like a tutorial on what the White Sox are going to do.
Half the time, it does seem like that's like the majority of his statements are usually about the White Sox.
Yeah.
So
because he just sits around and eats soup with Tony La Russa in Arizona.
Yeah. So you got anything else for this week? Anything interesting that you've like to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, I do not. I think we're good. We're good on the 2024 White Sox. I'm curious to see some of the draft picks play. I want to see, like, not in person, but you know, the videos that you tweet out of Nick McLean. I kind of want to see him, see how much of a tweener he is. I know a lot of people that think he's going to be really good. That profile is interesting just because it's like a corner without a ton of power, you know.
But we're talking about bridge leagues with him at this point, right? The bridge.
I mean, I think he's going to go to Canny or Winston. He's just not ready because like Arizona State didn't play as long as everybody else, so he was like, so he's in like a longer ramp up mode. But no, I think he'll go to an affiliate. He's good enough to. And the thing that I'm interested with him is if they play him in center, because I think they should try. There's no reason not to. And then Saki, does he fall on his face in Winston? Because if he doesn't, you know,
it's aggressive.
Yeah, it's really, but there's not a spot in Kannapolis, and they clearly think he can handle it.
Does Lyle Miller Green hit the ball to the courthouse down the street?
Oh yeah,
in Canny. I hope so.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah. Jack. So If you are not already following us, if you want to see said clips that James is referring to, follow us on Twitter/X at FutureSox. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at JamesFox917. You can find all of our written content, including his big giant breakdown of the draft, which he just put out. It's 35 million words.
Yeah.
There is that there. There's all sorts of interviews that Elijah's done. There's Trending on the Farm by our Sleepy Harold, who's in the comments here. And all that's on FutureSox.net. You can find this anywhere you are looking for your podcast. Just search for Future Sox. You can find us on YouTube if you are not watching us on YouTube currently. Know that all of the strikeouts and pitching highlights and the home runs are all stitched together into one video. Throw it on the YouTube, and you can search it at the end of the night, except for when I'm in North Carolina, because I'm not wasting my time doing that while I'm down there actually watching baseball. Thank you guys so much for your time. Check out James' appearances that he's been doing across the pond in some of the other waters here on White Sox Twitter. Sox on 35th with Michael over there. And Elijah's also been hopping on a couple of places as well. Feel free to go check that out. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thanks for coming and hang out. We will catch up with you guys next week. We are moving to Sundays for the next 2 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll be. So I guess like I could do this now. Like full disclosure, like we're Sundays the next 2 weeks, and then we're gonna move to Mondays for a while. So I coach high school football. I have other responsibilities, so I'm very sorry.
I mean, it is what it is, man. You got some football to you got some Friday Night Lights to take care of, and you go and do that whole thing, and we'll move around. It doesn't bother me none. Just so you guys know, we will be having some Sundays shows for the next 2 weeks, and then we will move to Mondays for a little while, and then we'll possibly move back. I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get to the end of that. Thank you so much for your time. Kai Bush gets his first major league strikeout here, a looking strikeout. So that's nice. You guys have a great week until we see you again. Thank you so much.